Sanders said just this weekend. I think Trump did a great job of outlining what we all know is his record. Again, this is a very unusual presidential campaign. Both candidates have been in the White House. For the first time in 100 years, we have a candidate who has a record as president. And that record, with stable prices, higher wages, a secure border, and a peaceful, stable world. With Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, everything has gone to hell. Prices are at record highs, wages are stagnant, the border is wide open, illegal immigrants are flooding our country, and we have war breaking out all around the world.
On Fox News, Rick Hume, on Fox News, Rick Hume just said, let's face it.
You're live.
Trump had a bad night. Do you disagree?
Well, I haven't seen any of the other commentary. I think President Trump laid out a clear contrast between his record as president and Kamala Harris's failed record as the vice president. What Kamala Harris couldn't do, remember, time after time, she could not answer simple questions. Are people better off now than they were 4 years ago? No. Will you support any restrictions on abortion at all in months 7, 8, or even 9? No. Why? Because people aren't better off. Because she does have a radical position on abortion, because they have no plan to address inflation. They have no plan to close and secure our border. On issue after issue, Kamala Harris either dodged the question or she told lies. And President Trump pointed it out.
Let's go.
Can I ask the debate?
I think any voters who are watching this tonight believe that.
You know him well. Was he
And unfortunately, there wasn't enough focus on immigration, which is a terrible thing for this country right now. Our illegal immigration situation is a disaster, and Kamala Harris was the border czar. Her one job with Joe Biden, and she has failed. She's epically failed, and unfortunately, she's not been able to explain to us why you've had so many people come over.
Was he rattled tonight, do you think? Fox News, Rick Hume said, let's face it, Trump had a bad night. Do you agree, disagree?
Well, look, I think it's what we expected. I think it was a bit of a 3-on-1 situation. Certainly, they backed up Kamala Harris from the moderator's standpoint. But she went up there and did exactly what Joe Biden did in 2020. She said things to the American people we know are not true. She lied to the American people. She's not able to do the things that she said she's going to do because she hasn't even explained them.
You don't sound like you think Donald Trump had a good night.
I think he had a night that we expected to see, which is that Donald Trump was 4 years in the White House. We all remember how our lives were then. Kamala Harris has been in for 4 years, and I think the question really is, why hasn't she done any of the things that she says she wants to do? Why hasn't she brought down inflation? Why hasn't she closed the border?
But surely you wasn't trying to get to another
been able to end the Ukraine-Russia conflict? Why did we see Israel?
Surely you wanted to come here and say that Donald Trump had a great night.
I think he had a fine night. I think that this was a night that was absolutely necessary, and I am so happy we finally got to see these two people on a stage. I wish we had 2 more debates. We usually have 3 presidential debates. Kamala Harris has said she only wants 1 so far. Donald Trump would certainly be willing to do another debate.
David Brody here, real quick. What's your message to ABC News about how they, the questions today?
I think it was rather unfortunate that it felt like that it was an attack session on Donald Trump. I think he had a lot of great points, a lot of great things to say. He had to hold Kamala Harris accountable because unfortunately didn't feel like they did a whole lot of that.
How do you think
necessary for the American people to see? I do feel like it was a bit of a 3-on-1 debate. I feel like it was the moderators and Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. But he was able to remind the American people that Kamala Harris has been in the White House for 4 years alongside Joe Biden. And unfortunately for the American people in the world, she hasn't done any of the things she said she would be able to do. The idea that she would be able to accomplish anything with 4 more years in the White House is absolutely ludicrous. It would be a disaster for this country and a disaster for the world.
Is Donald Trump going to keep the Affordable Care Act?
What's that?
Is he going to keep the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I think we heard him tonight. He said if there was a better plan plan that was in place, he would be very
But
willing to accept that.
he won't kill the Affordable Care Act until that comes
I don't
out.
believe you heard that from him tonight, that he's willing
No, we
to do
did
that.
not.
No.
What about the
What about the minimum wage?
What was that?
Well, there have been a lot of issues in this country based on illegal immigration, and because of that, people are suffering. And one of the places they're suffering is in Ohio. Now, to what extent, I'm not totally sure, but that is a story that a lot of people have been talking about.
Laura, what about the minimum wage?
All right, good.
I get it.
JD Vance.
I don't know. I can't. Hi. So what do you think? A lot of people are very happy with Vice President Harris' performance. Tell us what you think.
I thought she did exactly what she needed to do, which was show the American people that she has a plan to move forward. She reached out and talked to American people that she cared about them, and she clearly was the winner of this debate. Donald Trump just started spiraling downhill as soon as we got to the Roe v. Wade decision, and it just got worse and worse as the debate went on for him.
Senator, do you think this was enough to sway those alleged undecided voters?
I don't think so.
Definitely. I thought that she did exactly what she needed to do. They care about what are we going to do for them. She has made it clear that she's going to be a president for the entire United States, for all of America, not just for somebody in the past. You know, Donald Trump was just focused on whether or not he'd won the last election. That's all the Americans want. They want to know who's going to support them, who's going to work for them. And she made that message very clear, that she's got a plan and she's going to be president for all Americans. And she clearly won the debate tonight.
Do you think this is the last debate? Do you think there'll be more?
I hope that there's another one come October. I will encourage her to pursue another one. But if I were Donald Trump's team, I wouldn't have put him up on against her again.
Senator, do you think a lot of people know a lot more about the vice president now than they did before?
Oh, I think so. I think she was very clear, plan after plan that she put into place, whether it was a tax credit for entrepreneurs, whether it was a tax credit for people who want to buy their first home, whether it was about making sure that we expand health care for all Americans in terms of bringing down the cost of prescription drug medication. Donald Trump had no plan. It was clear he had no plan. His only plan was Project 2025, and even that he wasn't sure about. And so, you know, I think that she made the case for the American people. I think they know more about her now, and they know that she's going to be a president for all Americans. Thank you.
Moving down to the south, you guys want?
Your credentials?
Excuse me.
Why doesn't she strike? It's being wide open and it's caused higher prices for American citizens. I want to hear about Kamala Harris's record of achievement. Unfortunately, it's so thin and all she has to talk about his platitudes. And I think the American people are smart enough to see right through it.
Senator, what's the biggest mistake that Vice President Harris made tonight? What issue did she make a mistake on? You're talking about her record.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Kamala Harris made a lot of mistakes tonight, but again, I go back to what I said earlier, which is that there was no real substance. If you listen to Kamala Harris talk for 90 minutes, you would hear a person talking as if she weren't the sitting vice president of the United States of America. She is in office now and has been for 3.5 years. It's her policy that caused these problems. It is her policy that caused higher inflation. It's her policy that caused the wide open southern border. If Kamala Harris wants to fix these problems, she should do it right now with the job the American people gave her, not ask for a promotion so that she can fail even more.
Immigrants are eating their dogs, their cats. It was mentioned by Trump on national television. Do you truly believe those claims?
Well, we just actually heard a 911 call from a citizen in Springfield earlier today that some of the immigrants in Springfield were capturing geese at the local pond, slaughtering them and killing them. Well, I mean, look, I don't know what are the full spate of animals that are being consumed there in Springfield, but I know the geese are certainly among them. And we've heard reports from a number of constituents on the ground that they have had pets abducted by some of the immigrants there. We're, of course, looking into this stuff. But look, the fundamental issue here is whether they were eating geese or dogs. Is that really what we're going to hang our hat on? The problem is that this small town in Ohio has been flooded with 20,000 migrants thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Now people can't afford basic goods, they can't afford food, they can't afford housing in their communities, and their public safety has been completely destroyed. It's a disgrace. And Donald Trump is right to call it out, and Kamala Harris, like so many other issues, she has no way to explain why she's going to be better as president than she has been as vice president. It's her policies that caused the problem. She should have to answer for that.
You're Catholic, and Trump has come out in support of IVF and making IVF free for all. And the Catholic Church teaches that IVF is immoral. And so I just wanted to know kind of where you stand on that, and if that's something that you support as well, or if that's more so just Trump.
Look, I think, first of all, Donald Trump is the leader of the Republican Party because he received millions of votes, and Donald Trump has been explicit that he wants to promote a culture where life is welcomed into this community, into our country. He supports fertility treatments. He wants to make them more accessible. He's been crystal clear on that. Now, that said, I think that it's ridiculous that Democrats are saying that Donald Trump wants to take your fertility treatments away, when in reality, Democrat policies have made it harder to afford children, made it harder to afford home to put those children, made it harder to afford the groceries with which to feed those children. Their policies have been a nightmare, and so they're trying to scare Americans with promises and threats that Donald Trump is going to take away their fertility treatments, when in reality they're saying that because they don't have any solutions to the problems of America.
Mr. Vince.
I think he did a couple things really powerful tonight. One, he reminded Pennsylvanians that though Kamala Harris is running away from her record at every single step, she wants to ban fracking. Kamala Harris has been explicit about wanting to ban fracking, and she couldn't explain why she allegedly flip-flopped on a view that she held just a few years ago. If you ban fracking like Kamala Harris wants to do, it's going to immiserate and impoverish thousands of Pennsylvania citizens, and it's going to jack up energy prices, by the way, even higher than they've already gone up, because thanks to Kamala Harris's policies, we've got energy prices that are about 40% higher. They're going to go a lot higher, and she puts a lot of Pennsylvania crackers out.
A lot of people, not only in the United States, but in Europe, have been watching this debate.
Yeah.
They want to know what will happen in Ukraine, what will happen in Israel. Did they get a fair answer? What do you think?
Well, I think what they got from Kamala Harris again is more platitudes. What's your actual plan? She actually was bragging that Joe Biden sent her to Ukraine to stop the war from happening, and then Donald Trump very smartly pointed out, well, you were sent there to prevent the war from happening, and then it happened 3 days after you left town. Clearly, there's some weak leadership there and some incompetence there. I think the real difference. Excuse me, sir. Could I answer the question? What Donald Trump has said very explicitly is that smart leadership and smart diplomacy will create a world at peace. It did when he was president, and I think that's his plan again. Now, to be clear, Ukraine and Russia, the whole situation is a disaster. What you need is smart diplomacy to get Europe and America and Ukraine and Russia out of that conflict and back on a footing of peace. Donald Trump's already had successful diplomacy. He's going to do it again when the American people elect him president in a few months. Sir.
He did not tell us how he's going to stop the war in Gaza after 40,000 casualties. I mean, of course, Biden administration and Vice President Harris did a horrible job. What is going to make a difference?
Well, look, I think what President Trump has said very specifically is, one, you need to give Israelis the precision-guided weapons so that you don't have a lot of unnecessary civilian casualties. Kamala Harris says that she wants to cut down on civilian casualties, but her foreign policy has actually led to a lot of Palestinian civilians being killed. It's also prolonged the war. It's also strengthened Hamas. It's like a lose-lose-lose foreign policy, but again, that's the incompetence of Kamala Harris. Ma'am.
What do you say to Haitian Americans and Haitian immigrants who say spreading false claims about them put their lives at risk?
Well, I don't think that no one has spread false claims. What they've said is that a small migrant community, 20,000, so it's big for the city of Springfield, but it's small compared to all Haitians in the United States of America, that small migrant community has caused a lot of problems. It's led to higher rates of communicable diseases. That's a verifiable fact. It's led to animals disappearing. Many of my constituents have said that has been happening. It's led to higher home prices. That is a verifiable fact. So this influx has led to a lot of poverty in Springfield. No. Let me finish. Let me finish the question. Excuse me. City officials have said that's not true. That's not actually accurate. What they've said is that there's no
evidence that immigrants are eating animals, and you have been saying, and Donald Trump just said on stage that they are eating animals.
Would you like me to answer the question, or would you like to keep interrupting me? Can you answer can you ask the question and then let me answer it? The city manager said there's no verifiable evidence. A lot of residents on the ground have said that there is. That just means the city manager, I think, isn't fully in touch with what's going on the ground there. I've heard from many of my own constituents who have seen these things with their own eyes, who have seen these abductions with their own eyes, who have seen geese being taken out of local parks and slaughtered in front of their eyes. What do I think is a bigger problem? Insulting 20,000 people, or the fact that my constituents can't live a good life because Kamala Harris opened the border? I think it's Kamala Harris needs to do her job and make people happier and healthier in this country.
Last question, guys. Last question.
Has tonight cost him the election, sir?
Hey, guys, chill out, please. I'm going to answer this question. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So my question for you is, do you think Donald Trump did a better job in this debate than he did in previous debates at the And do you think he's made a difference with undecided voters?
Well, his debate opponent, I will say one thing for her, she had a pulse unlike his opponent a few months ago, so I think that there was that big difference. But look, I think what we reveal here is that Kamala Harris is a candidate of platitudes. There's no substance, there's no ability for her to talk about how her record lowered grocery prices or housing prices, because her policy raised housing prices and raised grocery prices for Americans. So I think what we saw was Donald Trump. He was crisp, he was clear, he had a real vision for what to do to take this country forward. He also has a record that he's proud of, and the biggest difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is they both have records. Donald Trump's proud of his, Kamala Harris is ashamed of hers, and rightfully so.
All right. Hi. Did you get him when I was like when it was right in front of me?
Great. Yeah, but watch the mic. It's way too, I don't know where it was. It's way too close. He's loud.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try to, we're almost always going to be good.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's good. We got a lot of stuff in that last one. Who else we got?
And that was. Let's check.